Well, thank you again, Cindy Eve. And this is certainly one of my favorite parts of the day because it really is about show and tell. And this is where we get to meet four Canadian companies that have successfully tapped into the diverse markets of the EU, and we get to hear how they did it. So, as many of you know, Canada is a hotbed of entrepreneurship. 99% of our businesses are small and medium sized enterprises. And we are one of the best places in the world to start and to grow a business. Before COVID 19, trade accounted for nearly two-thirds of our economy and supported nearly 3.3 million jobs for Canadians. Small and medium sized businesses truly are the backbone of our economy, at the heart of our communities all across the country. Their success, your success, is absolutely essential to our economic recovery. This is why our government has been focused on helping them succeed and to benefit from new opportunities in the global markets. And today, we have four panelists who are going to be able to share with you their experience as exporters to the EU. So I'm looking forward to this conversation. And I'm sure that they're going to tell you that the EU has been a key market to their business growth and to their expansion. So let me do a bit of introduction here. The first company with us is LACMAC. Their chemical splash protective products and personal protective equipment were in high demand before the pandemic. But now it's taken on even more important to protect frontline workers in Canada and around the world. Their CEO, Shelley White, joins us from London, Ontario. Let's give a hand to Shelley, a virtual hand. There we go. The second company to join us is Vivo Team, a proudly women-owned business based in British Columbia. Vivo Team is a global leader in using behavioral science and analytics to identify productivity at work and provide training solutions to increase collaboration on project teams. Renee Safrata is Vivo Team's CEO and founder. She joins us from West Vancouver. Renee, welcome. The third company with us today is Racam, a Quebec-based company that uses solar energy to fuel industrial heating systems. In a world where the threat of climate change looms large, Racam is doing their part to innovate and to create a more sustainable and economically stable way of producing energy for the world ahead. Josiane Belanger Gravel, Racam's business development director, joins us from Sherbrooke, Quebec. Hello, Josiane. And our final company on the panel today is Biscay Seafoods Canada, and they're based in Nova Scotia. Biscay focuses on the capture, production, and the commercialization of seafood products with a special focus on salted and frozen products. Sylvia Ayesteran, Biscay's financial manager, joins us from Halifax, and it's terrific to have you with us today, Sylvia. Now, every company has a unique story about how they began to export into a new market. So I know I'm very excited to learn more about your stories because I know that the over 1,000 entrepreneurs and businesses who are here with us today are also interested. No pressure, no pressure at all. But with that, let's get into a good discussion with our speakers telling us more about their company's journey to entering the EU market, along with their challenges and their successes along the way. So I'm going to start with Vivo Team. So Renee, do you want to tell us how Vivo Team made its first splash into the EU?
Absolutely. And thank you, Minister, for your participation today. I think it's so critical that you're representing all of us as small businesses who are doing mighty things and just ready to get into the EU. So it's exciting to participate. Thank you for that. Our story of becoming a Canadian ICT small business with a global footprint could actually look like an overnight COVID success. While the pandemic definitely accelerated our expansion, I would say that our story starts with being an entrepreneur, with the willingness to show up and navigate this ecosystem. Because truly what you're presenting today is an ecosystem of support that for all of us as small business owners need to raise our heads out of our minutia and realize that there is a wide, as you said, 160 trade commissioners who are willing to help us, willing to network us. And as Canadians, I think it's so exciting that if we do get our heads up and lift up and we start to network and we just start to go small baby steps, we can really make a big impact. So to your question, this year at Vivo Team, we have with 4 clients, we have expanded into 17 countries, and that's just since March, and mainly throughout the EU. Our story really started from taking advantage of the ecosystem and showing up. So as a woman-owned business in the ICT sector, I've had great advantages to early on 2012, 2013 to start to learn what this ecosystem looked like through We Connect International, certifying myself as a women-owned business. And then through that, I really got knowledge from going through conferences about how the Canadian government, there are financial grants, like you mentioned, the CanExport grant that we've taken advantage of on a couple occasions, banking connections, and the trade commissioners really opened up for me. And in opening up, it really raised my head to say, hey, yeah, why couldn't I do business across the pond? So we've used the CanEx grant. We're TAP alumni. We actually secured the Best Export Plan award recently. And I mention all of this because it's my point of entrepreneurs, if they show up and they connect to the network, there's so much that we can do really efficiently with that support. So I decided to show up to a number of trade missions to the US to apply for the Canada Export grant and to really make trade commissioners part of my staff, essentially. And so with that, we did a number of events with our CanEx grant, and we started inviting trade commissioners out to lunch to come and learn a little bit more about Vivo, because truth is trade commissioners are doing great work, but they're sitting in their office, and why not get them out to actually experience what we were doing? So through all of that connecting in with the ecosystem, I connected in with my key contact at PwC, who was first in Toronto, and I met during a conference in Toronto, and then he moved to Prague and had some great influence at PwC in Prague. When COVID hit, I was able to sort of reach out to him and say, hey, I'd really like to get more involved. And luckily, and this is where the acceleration happened, even though I had built that relationship over 8 years, it was ready and ripe for acceleration. So he basically said to me, you know, all of our master facilitators in our EU, throughout EMEA and deeply in Switzerland, need to learn what Vivo Team is doing by working remotely and delivering products with virtual instructor-led sessions. So we quickly, as you were saying, we have to be nimble, we have to be innovative. We put together a program called Shine Online, and we started training master facilitators through EMEA to understand how to shift what was currently their classroom training business into virtual instructor-led businesses. And so that, for us, was just a really great experience. My team is across Canada. What we had to learn was we had to learn how to be night crawlers and deliver with a 9-hour time shift. And that was really fun, delivering our product in this way to master facilitators and leaders. So I would just say that for me, the journey has really started by being willing and confident to understand that we could do business across the pond, to show up, to really make trade commissioners part of our ecosystem, and to really open my eyes that there was a lot of support for us as a small business.
That is absolutely terrific. Thank you very much for that. It's incredible to see how active Vivo Team has been, and you have certainly adapted in this time of COVID-19. I certainly share the Nightcrawler timing with you, being the Minister of International Trade and supporting our businesses no matter where they happen to be in the globe. So so I do that humbly, and thank you so much. For that, for sharing your experience. Now let's turn to Shelley. Shelley at LACMAC, can you share with the audience what your experience has been exporting and getting into the EU? Over to you.
Thank you, and thank you, Minister. I'm really excited to have the opportunity to participate in this event. LACMAC Limited is a well-established company that actually celebrated our 100th anniversary this year. And for us, the journey has been an interesting journey, starting in 1919 and now in 1920. So we have definitely experienced many, many changes and growth along the way. So I'll talk a little bit more specifically about our experience exporting to the EU. LACMAC began exporting to the EU in 2017, and it came with a few challenges and a learning curve on how to reach our end customer. CETA was instrumental in allowing us to export our PPE products to the EU competitively by eliminating the tariffs for us. This allowed us to expand our sales into other countries that we could not compete in before CETA. LACMAC benefited from utilizing support from EMA, the Export Market Access, which is no longer existing, and most recently from the CAN Export Program. So we've utilized the EDC, Export Development Canada, for credit insurance when we felt it beneficial with new business opportunities. Certainly there are risks associated when you're entering into other countries and business partnerships that you're not as comfortable with. So for us, all of these opportunities and programs provided have been very beneficial. Along the way, as I mentioned, we have had a few challenges to market entry. One of the challenges we faced was creating a workable shipping channel to ensure the various export costs associated with shipping to the EU were fully understood and could be contained in order for us to remain cost competitive within the market. We needed to understand the requirements and the cost associated with exporting, including the correct HS codes and the VAT requirements. Shipping costs to export were significant for us. So we required help to establish channels for exporting. And CETA certainly did assist us with that. LACMAC, if you're unaware, LACMAC has 3 market segments that we focus our business on. Those market segments being healthcare, our FR Arc protective outerwear for utilities, and our reusable chemical splash protective products. Each of these business segments are unique in requirements to meet industry standards. North American standards and European standards differ, so we have had to educate ourselves on these differences and have had additional product testing done where it was necessary. The standards representing different performance requirements, so testing is really a big part of what we do. Additionally, the trade agreement has been extremely beneficial for us when importing an essential component required for our healthcare products. As you mentioned, certainly during this pandemic, we have had a huge opportunity and increase in demand for our product. And our technical textile that is essential to our business throughout the world isn't available from any other source of supply other than our European partner in Germany. So it has been extremely beneficial in our ability to import this product. So the other area that it has helped us is LACMAC imports technical equipment to perform assembly components that meet regulatory requirements for medical devices. This enables LACMAC to be a leader in our industry and develop proprietary intellectual property of materials and production processes. When you're dealing with PPE products, especially for healthcare, the standards and the requirements associated with this are very stringent, and we actually are audited by 5 different bodies in our facility in order to meet medical device requirements in other countries. So for us, the assistance from the government and through the programs has really been essential to us, helping us develop our opportunity to enter and export and import throughout the global market.
Shelley, thank you very much for that. You know, for all those good reasons is why I think it's so important to, you know, to have your stories and the rest of the panelists here for those, for the businesses that are looking to either expand or looking to enter into that market. And while CETA is absolutely, I mean, you've touted some of the benefits of CETA, and that is absolutely important. But you know, it may be a known fact or maybe not one. You know, in an effort to make it more known, Canada is in a very, very enviable position in terms of how well we fare you know, how well we fare in terms of access to markets. And we're the only G7 country that has a trade agreement with every other G7 country. And CETA is one of those agreements, and we're talking, that's what we're focused on today and on the over the next couple of days and trade with the EU. But our other trade agreements also provide businesses with preferential access to a range of other markets around the world. I mean, almost we get access to almost 65% of the world's economy. So our trade agreements are very, very important to help provide that tariff reduction, the rules, and sort of how you operate and how we can support our businesses in operating abroad. And I know that LACMEC has a market in the UK. So you export there, and I know that there are businesses who are here who may be asking what happens to them when the UK withdraws from the European Union. Many may be worried about how their products may be affected once that transition period comes to an end. At December the 31st, when CETA no longer applies to the UK. So, as I said earlier in my opening remarks, I'm really pleased that our government, the Canadian government, and the United Kingdom has concluded talks on a Canada-UK trade continuity agreement. So it basically means that this interim, this will provide that transition, and that we have an agreement now with the UK that is based on the terms of CETA, and that we're looking to put in place as soon as possible. And I think that this agreement is important towards the UK-Canada trade relationship. We're going to get to work on negotiating a new bilateral agreement with the UK. But in the meantime, this is a priority for us to having reached these negotiations so that we can get to that stability that I know Canadian businesses absolutely are looking for. And now I'm going to go to Rackham and hear from Josiane about Rackham's journey into the European Union. And so over to you, Josiane.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Bonjour à tous. Thank you for this opportunity as well. Rackham journey began in Europe a while ago. So we have successfully commissioned energy products, solar energy project in Spain, Greece, and Portugal. More recently, it's the largest one ever built by Rackham on the rooftop. And it's one of the largest solar concentrated system on the rooftop in the world as well. So why Europe? For Rackham, in the eyes of Rackham, Europe is well advanced in the integration of clean technology and renewable energy in general. It focuses on creating a greater demand for those clean tech. And how it's done in many ways. So one of them is governmental policy and regulation. Let's say for the regulation, it's a good example when we take Barcelona. The client had to have to meet a minimum quota of solar energy to produce its hot water for processes or for domestic hot water. So with that regulation, it had to choose among solar options. So this gave a push to the whole technologies, solar technologies. Another thing that needs to be known, it's Rackham often doesn't compete against other solar technology, but against old school fuel boilers using natural gas or using oil. So very polluting. And to compare those technology, you need some parameters that are fair for both technologies. Often in the industrial sector, it's often based the decision only on the payback time, so return on investment time. So let's say you put a solar installation, you have some savings in the fuel, you have your cost of infrastructure divided by those savings, so you're going to have the time to recuperate your money. When you use this criteria, it's a short-term vision. So let's say Rackham can have as low as 3 years payback, which is amazing for renewable energy. But still, you don't see all the benefits from year 4 to year 20. And this is very penalizing for renewable energy because you have a higher cost at the beginning, and then you have all the benefits. So you need a parameter that will integrate that concept. So for our specific field, it's the levelized cost of heat or levelized cost of energy. So it includes all the costs. Yes, the price of the fuel, let's say, But the price of the fuel, it's not the real cost of what it costs to use fossil fuel. It's the price of the fuel, operation and maintenance. You have also the equipment and infrastructure. So when you account for all those costs, it's twice the price for fossil fuel. So when you compare the solar cost and the fossil fuel cost, they are close to each other. Solar will be even cheaper than natural gas. But since the difference between the two is small, when you look into a payback parameters, it translates into longer payback. So it's really penalizing the way to see clean technology. But in Europe, mentality are already there. They are already using other parameters or criteria that put like the technology on the same level and the same basis of comparison. Even on top of that, they even go further. So they just don't want clean energy. They want the clean energy to be manufactured with a low carbon footprint. So we've seen lately in some call for projects, they add a requirement on that part. So for us, the European market, it's like we look what it's done, it's the future, and we should also learn from them and apply some of the techniques that they have to introduce clean tech here too in Quebec and in Canada. So the European market is really, the changings are happening already, and it facilitates the integration of renewable energies and clean tech in general.
Thank you so much, Josiane. The EU really is pushing the envelope when it comes to adopting clean technology. I loved hearing your expertise about that and what Rackham is doing to get into and to grow and to leverage what the EU has been doing around their adoption and to grow into that market. But I think that that the seriousness and the commitment to climate change is not just in the EU, it is here in Canada, by our government. And I think you're starting to see much more of that elsewhere as well. But but I think what you're saying here is that that for those companies that are here today that may be in that sphere of around green growth and certainly clean technology, that the EU really does provide those opportunities just simply because their regulations and the way in which they already are adopting and in some respects, in many respects, demanding it is an opportunity. I mean, when I look at CETA, that's precisely the high mark agreement that CETA is, with those provisions that protect the environment and really does sort of allow for both the environment and the economy to go hand in hand and to yield the benefits of trade in a way that that will develop sort of a more more sustainable businesses. So now we're going to go to the East Coast with Biscay. Sylvia, can you just share with us how Biscay started exporting its products into the EU, please?
Hello, good morning. Thanks for the opportunity to participate in this panel. Well, Biscay Seafoods is a company with more than 25 years of experience in the production and commercialization of seafood products, with a special attention on salted fish. Our clients are importers and wholesalers all over the world. And we started exporting to the EU because Europe is a big market with high demand on salted fish, especially Spain and Portugal. So when we started, we didn't think it would be a huge success because they are very used to eat this kind of products. I would like to mention also that CETA has become for us a big improvement for all our process, because upon entry of into force of CETA, Biscay Seafoods had a quota for all the products or for the salted fish products. And with CETA, we don't have to face these duties and these quotas. So our products are now more competitive with European products. For us, the tariff elimination has made our products more competitive. So this has big benefits and savings in both the financial and logistics side of our company. Because before CETA, well, I have to remark that the main season for capture and production of salted fish in Canada is from August to November. So with this system of quotas, when the first containers started to arrive to Europe, that was in December, all quotas were already finished. So we had to store all product in Denmark until January, when the quotas were already opened again in the new year. This required a big financial and logistic effort that we don't have until CETA is with us. So we encourage all companies to export, because this has become, as I have said, a big improvement and a very important saving for all our process. We can reach our clients quicker now. They don't have to wait until we can send the product without quota and without duties. So I think this is very, this has led to a higher demand of our products. And we also have big support from the Trade Commissioner in Spain also. They have helped us a lot to reach new clients there in Spain, in Portugal. So, and also with all the process, they have been there helping since the beginning. So I have to thank all the team also there. And also I would like to say that Europe, especially for our products with salted fish, is very attractive for all companies, because our products are very high valued. And we hope to expand not only in Spain and Portugal, but also in other countries. We are now starting with France, Italy, the Netherlands, and hope to continue in more and more countries in the next few years. And this is our big experience of what we can share with the rest of the exporters, and hope this helps and to the rest of the exporters to encourage people to export to the European Union. Now with CETA, everything is much easier now.
Well, that's terrific, Sylvia. Thank you very, very much for that. And it's terrific to hear that CETA has been a game changer for exporting Biscay's products, and interesting to see not only that it's tariff elimination, but also the removal of quotas that has really made a difference for Biscay's bottom line, and really terrific to hear of the even further expansion plans into other, into other markets in the European Union. Now, I know that all of you have had different interactions with the Canada Trade Commission Service, and you hear me tout about them. I couldn't, I couldn't be their biggest cheerleader, because I think the work that they do is absolutely extraordinary. But what I think is only part of the equation. What really matters is what the businesses think, and how your interaction has been, and the kind of work and support that you've been able to get from them. There are over 1,300. I mean, across the world. We have trade commissioners here in Canada help businesses be ready before they leave, and we certainly have them in market, and and many in the European Union. I know that later on you will hear from some of our senior trade commissioners across the EU, and I hope that everyone will find that very useful. But right now, I think what I'm going to do is turn to the panelists so that you can share a bit of that experience. And again, what's really terrific about hearing from exporters themselves, from businesses themselves, is that you're talking to your peers who are on here, and you can share with them some of your experiences and what you may have done and what you may have done and you wouldn't do again, and that's tremendously important for those who are looking at opportunities in CETA. So maybe here I'm going to go back to Josiane, and perhaps you can tell us how Rackham has benefited from the work with the Trade Commissioner Service.
Thank you. Yeah, the Trade Commissioner Services for Rackham has been vital. So they are great allies. They are seen as a part of the team, like a previous panelist said before. They are there to help you increase your business. And we are not like small businesses. We are not businesses that have a team or 10 or 20 people to do business development or to do marketing and so on. So we need that kind of help with the Trade Commissioner Services. Let's say here we deal with Anne Rouleau in Quebec, and she can introduce us to other trade commissioners everywhere in the world and for a specific sector. So she's our door to go everywhere in the world. And using that network, it boosts Rackham's network. That we have limited resources, of course, so we cannot be everywhere at the same time. But then they see many different industries, they participate in many events. So this is huge for Rackham. Also, another thing that they can do for you is they can call a company to introduce you to that company. So that gives a great boost in the credibility to your company when a governmental entity call to introduce you. Another thing that is very important and vital for Rackham is the funding. So Rackham receive Can Export for small businesses and Can Export innovation funding. So Can Export for small businesses, we received it, let's say, in 2019 for Mexico and Brazil, and previously we even had it for Spain. So it allows you to have part of your expenses for your specific project or specific market to be reimbursed. So also small businesses, often the cash flow is up and down. So we need that kind of help to boost our business development. Another thing, it's the other funding program is Can Export Innovation. So with Can Export Innovation, like Rackham loves to innovate. So we develop new collectors, a new line of collectors that we know how to do. But when it comes to be integrated in a new process, in a new country that have a very different culture or business culture, and when you have to do to be integrated to a totally new sector, you need some partners that are specialists in that sector. So what Can Export Innovation does, it helps you to be reimbursed for some expenses to go towards those R&D agreement. We had in the past some funding for Can Export Innovation for China. So China is a very harsh market for solar energy. It's really competitive. So you need to have a partner over there that will help you adapt your product and your manufacturing to be able to compete on that market. And as an example, let's say Rackham produces solar heat. Usually we put that solar heat towards heating water or produces steam for industrial sector. But now we are started to work towards drying sludge, so the solid part of the wastewater. So this is totally a new thing for us. So we need to rely on partners. So we want to work towards our R&D agreement with a partner in sludge. So this is in a way. So that's the kind of help that the Trade Commissioner Services offer. And it's fair to say that Rackham wouldn't be where it is right now if it wasn't for the funding and the help of the trade commissioner. So it has been a tremendous help, and the team are terrific. So don't hesitate to communicate with them and to take the opportunity to use their services.
Well, that's terrific, Josiane, and I couldn't agree with you more. It's sort of like I said, I couldn't be there. They're sort of their biggest cheerleader because of the work that they do to support Canadian businesses, and they really are that key point of contact within the global network of trade commissioners, because we operate, I mean, around the globe. So for the companies that are here with us virtually. If you haven't already, get in touch with your local TCS regional office so that you can learn more about how they can help you expand your business abroad. And I love I love hearing all of the practical stories that come from the businesses. And I think, as I said earlier, I think that's what is the most helpful to the businesses that are here, to sort of hear from the lived experiences. And maybe now I can go to Shelley. And Shelley, can you tell us LACMAC's experience engaging with the TCS? I mean, I think there are some common themes around service, but I think that there are, that each company has a bit of, their own story with respect to how that assistance has helped them into growing and exporting. Shelley, over to you.
Yeah, thank you. LACMAC here, we've been fortunate at LACMAC to be involved with the Trade Commissioner services. They were instrumental in leading the trade mission to Mexico and helped with many aspects of development of this opportunity. Our team at LACMAC worked very closely with the Trade Commission over a period of months, and we received assistance in setting up meetings with key healthcare providers in Mexico. TCS provided a translator to assist with the meetings, and also traveled with our Canadian representatives to several of the laundries that would be managing reusable products for hospitals, and provided translation services for us. Development of the marketing information and sell sheets that we needed to be translated to Spanish. The Trade Commission also continues to be there for us as we are working to continue to develop this business opportunity. In saying that, they actually came here at LACMAC with some of the opportunities and customers we worked with in Mexico, and had follow-up meetings here with us. And the key people that traveled to Canada to tour our facility, talked to some of our Canadian laundry customers to better understand the reprocessing requirements for reusable technical textiles and healthcare surgical gowns and drapes. Medical products used in different countries vary differently. So there's a huge educational curve in order to train people and have them become familiar with high-end technical textile products. Second, we've been fortunate to obtain funding through CanExport SME program to help with opportunities in the UK, Romania, New Zealand, and Australia. That's the most recent one that we've worked on. And this funding allowed us to participate in an industry trade show in Germany, where we had an opportunity to view competitive products and to better understand our target market, and to make contact with affiliated trade commissioners within the EU marketplace. So CanExport helped LACMAC by providing support for the travel expenses, translation of promotional marketing and technical data sets to reach the new potential markets and customers. Language can be a huge challenge for companies that are mainly English speaking. So it's an assistance that we definitely take advantage of and require the help in. They have also helped us with costs of attending the trade shows, the displays that we use for presentations. And for a small business in Canada, this assistance allows us to grow and expand into international markets that we may not have been able to reach otherwise. So very important to us. One of the requirements to export to the EU, for instance, for the healthcare market is to complete our CE markings. CE markings is an administrative marking that indicates conformity with health, safety, and environmental protection standards for the products sold in Europe. To achieve this, LACMAC has to have a quality system in accordance with the medical device regulations, which requires compliance to two standards that we are not required to meet in North America, and that's the ISO 13485 and the EN 13795. So the products must be tested to these two standards, which are a series of performance test methods. The challenge to meeting the EN 13795 is a post-market clinical follow-up, which is a requirement for the medical device record. That clinical follow-up isn't a part of the North American standard or requirement, and it actually takes a great deal of time and investment in order to achieve that. And certainly TCS has been very helpful in putting us in touch with parties like Emergo that could help us to, with Emergo and a clinician that could help us to make sure that we meet these new regulations and are successful in our implementation of those products into the European marketplace. So, so in doing that, the differences in the North American market for medical device certification and European markets, as I said, require that we invest further in testing and clinical evaluations to complete the certifications. The CAN Export program assisted with the cost to support certifications required, including and preparing the data sets and locating the third-party entity and body to provide test results and documentation for the approval. So expansion for us and growth into the global marketplace would be difficult without the support of CAN Export and TCS. So we thank them for all of the help and assistance they have given us over the years with the different markets that we are working to develop. Exporting on the global marketplace is something we have decided to do on a much larger scale over the last 2 years and is very important to our continued success as a PPE manufacturer in Canada.
Shelley, thank you very much for that. I mean, you sort of crossed over and touched on a number of things. I mean, but what I would say is that you know, to the business audience that's with us, I mean, we've got 4 panelists whose businesses are different. They are in different parts of Canada. And I think that I could add even sort of, you know, another group of panelists, I mean, who will sort of be able to share the stories of how the Trade Commissioner Service can help your businesses. And, you know, to sort of to maybe sum that up, I mean, at the end of the day, irrespective of, you know, of the kind of business that you might be in, and certainly if you are a small business, this service is what it's there for. It is to help our Canadian small businesses find those, you know, find success into those markets, but also on that journey as you navigate those issues and to problem solve along the way. So it's really terrific, the experiences that we have heard around the TCS. And like I said, I could put on a panel of many other businesses, and they will share probably the same sentiment in terms of not only the need for that type of navigation, and it'll vary based on market, but also your business. But certainly the TCS is there for you. And Shelley, you talked about the CAN Export program and made some really good points. And I do hope that the entrepreneurs and the businesses here will take a look at that program as well. It's up to $75,000, and it's in funding for, you know, for the development, for your business development into those international markets. And we've certainly had to adapt to this during COVID-19 because, you know, we aren't getting on planes to go to trade shows, but we are doing them virtually, and there are additional costs. There are, you know, there are still some supports that are needed for businesses as they grow into the international market. To support those, support those activities is what the CAN Export there is there to do. So we hope we've made it a bit more flexible, particularly for virtual activities, for things like online advertising, getting into virtual trade shows and so forth. So for the companies that are here, please go and check out the Can Export website, and I hope that it will also be able to help you as it has been able to for a couple of for our a couple, if not all of the panelists that are here. Renee, I'm going to come back to you, and you're very welcome to also talk about the TCS. But I thought what might be useful to do is also to help our businesses share your experience with the businesses that are here today about how things have changed sort of in this unprecedented time, and how Vivo team has adapted in that way through COVID-19 to sort of to take advantage of those opportunities despite the very, very particular challenges that businesses find themselves in today.
Hmm. Thank you, Minister. I also want to say it's been great being on the panel, because what's interesting about this is when I think about the fact that we all do very different businesses, and we're connecting with these countries and cultures that are now getting our products and services, it can be a bit complex. And when I started this whole ecosystem entry, it was quite overwhelming, like just trying to figure out how to navigate it. So you asked the question about what have things changed for Vivo Team? So we're not a product like a salted fish, where it's really easily to understand for a trade commissioner that somebody else needs that product. Because we're an ICT business and we develop our product with a number of subject matter experts, and we essentially deliver our product online, the interest for us in the exporting was really finding those trade commissioners who are willing to really get to know our business at a higher level. And I think that has been critical for us to sort of penetrate the barrier of delivering online. So we essentially had a head start because we were delivering everything online. And with regards to how things have changed for our market, and I mentioned that we have gone quickly to a number of countries really quickly this year, is the critical barrier for doing things online was removed with everybody working from home globally. And so leaders and teams now had a new problem of how to connect with their team members. And so because we had done the work of figuring out how to deliver our product virtually with the support of our analytics and our platform, we were able to essentially and needing to do things differently. And we just happened to be the product that had that match. So we could get accelerated really quickly. And the other thing that I want to say is that for anybody who's just sort of going, oh my God, this is a blur. There's so much opportunity here. Where do I start? What I've loved about the trade commissioners is that they are interested in figuring out who are we, how do we do business, and really being our partner to network with all of their network. So I just want to say that that's like a great place. If there's one simple thing, start with that. Did I answer your question?
Well, you know what? Absolutely, you did. And I don't think that there's any wrong answers, if you will. I mean, sharing of your experience, in fact, all of your experiences, I think is incredibly valuable and helpful to the businesses that are here with us. And each of you have walked, you have shoes that have walked into the EU, and with that, I think it is terribly valuable for our for our businesses. And you're absolutely right, Renee. I think that we are seeing among just the four of you, and there are many, but just among the four, just how different you are in the sectors that you come from and where you are in Canada, and in every single scenario. In every single scenario, it really is being able to put Canada's trade tools out there for to support the growth of your business and the growth of your business into a market like the EU. So absolutely terrific. And I do want to commend the Trade Commissioner Service, because they often are the ones that need to learn and then connect the dots, and then also sort of bring out that that capability that works alongside our Canadian businesses to see them on that journey, for commercial success. Maybe I'll go back to sort of to the East Coast with Biscay and with Sylvia. Now you are, you're a product. You did talk about getting into Spain and into Portugal. I know that there are businesses that are here that that are looking at like how do we do that? I mean, how do we know where to go into in the EU, and how will we do that? So maybe you could just share a bit of Biscay's experience into getting into into those particular markets, and how were you helped in doing that? I think you might be on mute, Sylvia.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go.
You have to first of all now. I think yeah. Now
Got
it's
you.
okay.
Yep.
You have to focus on the markets where you see there is a high demand of your products, and we focus first of all in these kind of markets because they have a big tradition of these salted fish. They have very different recipes on how to prepare this fish, and this is why we started with those ones. There are also other countries that we are starting now, like France, as I've said previously, France, Greece, Italy, the Netherlands. But the south of Europe is a part of with big tradition on salted fish, especially salted cod, and this has helped us to focus on them, to focus our sales in these markets. And as I've said, our products now are very competitive compared to other ones with those quotas and tariff elimination with CETA. But also to focus on these markets, you have to know also the preferences of the consumers in these markets, because even if it is the same product, like is salted cod, you have to know all the preferences of the consumers. I mean, in terms of quality, in terms of the size of the product, to satisfy the demand in the correct channel. And also, as I have said, the help and the support of the Trade Commissioner Service has been very important, especially in the different shows we participate in Europe and different events where we are invited to take place. And I think that with the knowledge of the demand and with the support of the Trade Commissioner team, it has been very much easier than we thought before.
Well, thank you so very much, and to everyone who's here, I want to thank you, and I want you to know that I continue to be committed to pursuing trade missions into key markets, and we have. With the new COVID reality, we certainly have had to adapt ourselves. We've moved a lot of what we have done online, so that we don't let COVID-19 stop us from supporting businesses who want to pursue and who can pursue those opportunities, particularly in a wonderful market like the European Union. And I think that one of the upsides of doing events like this one here is that they're more accessible than ever to a much broader range of entrepreneurs and to small businesses. And today, you heard me say earlier that we have over 1,000 businesses here, and just a little just a few weeks ago, I led a virtual trade mission to South Korea, and there again, we had record numbers, because I think that the opportunity to participate is one where something like this presents itself as something that many more can do. So I invite businesses who are interested to look forward to future virtual trade missions that I certainly will be leading into 2021. And we've all been dealing with a new normal across Canada, both professionally and personally because of COVID-19. And and I want to again thank our panelists who are here. So it's great to to hear from LACMAC, from Vivo Team, from Rackham, from Biscay, and just thank you for sharing your stories and your experiences, and for all the companies that are here online. I hope you were able to take some good notes. I look forward to certainly being able to profile your companies here one day on a similar, a similar mission, a similar forum like the one we've got today. And now I think I'm going to reconnect with Cindy Eve, who is going to take everybody through the rest of our program and introduce the next part of the program. But in the meantime, thank you all so very much. I couldn't, as the minister responsible for both small business and international trade, I couldn't be more proud than I am today to not only be a Canadian, but to see such terrific work by Canadian businesses, business leaders like yourself. So merci beaucoup.